Hello, everyone. I'm Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. And today, my guest is Dr. Alison. Dr. Alison, for more than 25 years, practiced as a mind body energy healer, founding the vibrational upgrade system, and working in yoga, meditation, Qigong, energy medicine, mind body fitness, longevity, and holistic health with a focus in the chakra system. She is considered one of the leading experts in the fields of New Thought, subtle energy and energy medicine, and the human potential field. She has spoken and taught around the world and has written 4 books: What If There Is Nothing Wrong, Easy Humanity's Evolutionary Transition, Reasonable Dragons, and the latest one, The Dragon Master Creatix, Conversations with a Female Spiritual Teacher for These Times. Dr. Alison, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, it's my honor. Glad to be here.
I know you spent a lot of time in India, about 10 years. What was the journey that took you there?
Well, I was actually in Taiwan and teaching in an international school. So I was a teacher in the classroom here in the States and wasn't on a Saturday morning, was balancing my checkbook and the days before digital banking and wasn't pleased with what I was seeing in my checkbook. I had a master's degree at that time and kind of felt like I was in a cage for possibly 3 to 4 decades and was, where's all the adventure and the fun and the abundance that I know I've had before. So then alongside my classroom teaching career, I was teaching meditation and running energy medicine and holistic health and wellness sessions as my side gig. And I was having probably number 3 or 4 in a series of 10 sessions with the client on another Saturday. It may have even been the same Saturday, Claudio. And listeners, hi. But we were both really happy, the client and myself, with the results she was getting so far. And so in the midst of having my hands over her abdomen, I looked up and just said, okay, so how can I get even more robust results for my clients? So within a month, I had synchronicity help me out, and a colleague introduced me to the international school system. So I submitted my resume, I made the travel plans, went to where I had to go, got interviewed from the school heads from around the world, got offered jobs around the world, and chose to go to Taiwan because it's where they're able to still be traditionally living from the traditional values. I'm skipping over saying a lot of things. That's why I'm going, sorry. But I also understood that both the Chinese and the Hindu yogic culture in India understand subtle energy and are still operating from it today. So I wanted to go to the source and learn more. And I increased my net cash flow by 60% and had a heck of a lot more adventure.
Wow. And did you meet other Westerners there, or you're one of the few?
Well, I mean, we were the smaller population because we were expats, but yeah, I tended to hang around with South Africans and Canadians more than fellow Americans. Yeah, it was fun.
And how did you find the teachers over there? What is their process in order to teach you to work with subtle energy?
Okay, so I was a teacher and an administrator in an international school that was bounding their students for Ivy Leagues in the States and some in England. On the side, I did continue to do the energy medicine sessions and then sought out different teachers and teachings. And consistently, Claudio and listeners, one of the things that I saw different with the Eastern teachers was their humor and their laughter spontaneously when you wouldn't expect it. And then also, here's an example. The second thing I want to say is in their different teaching style. When I was in the yoga shala in India, we were on the last day even, or the last 2 days of training. And I asked my yoga teacher, who was the founder of the school, and he's Indian, but he's married to an Irish woman. So he's used to Westerners. And so I asked him, Lalit, what do you see us messing up the most when we Westerners go back to the West with this training? And he took a minute and he responded with, anger gets stored in the hamstrings. So you'll notice he completely did not answer my question directly. he implied it. And so that's one of the major differences. We have to work to gain the wisdom, whether it's a momentary thought process or years of practice before we gain elevation in our power. But that obviously what he was saying, not obviously necessarily for some, but what he was saying was we disregard our emotions and the metaphysical aspects of the physical yoga studios in the West. So that's the mind-body connection. My whole first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong, is totally focused on that.
So over the years, have you been able to avoid this mistake?
Totally.
That's good.
Frankly.
And since then, have you went back many times, or do you still keep in contact with the source?
I keep in contact with the source. I honestly have yet to go back to Asia. I've been exploring new places. I was an expat teacher. I didn't live in my contract provided housing. I didn't live in that housing. I chose to use my stipend and go downtown and immerse amongst the local population. I got the most I could get out of 10 years living there studying, and it was full on. And so I know I've been going more to like the Mayan ruins in the Yucatan and further south in Mexico, and I've been going more to England, in Scotland, in Ireland for the stone circles, in Spain even. So I'm exploring other aspects of the ancient wisdom.
Interesting. And do you see the East still as a beacon of spirituality, or you think they also became more attached to the tangible?
I never saw them as a beacon of spirituality. I always saw them as understanding how subtle energy works. My first book that I wrote in my last year there started as my dissertation, and it's dry of any spirituality. And Claudio, when I came back to the States and published that book with an American publisher, Hay House, I had to struggle not to get put into the New Age genre or the spirituality genre, because it was new thought based on ancient wisdom, but it was dry of any spiritual, like Qigong, which I also teach, as you mentioned. That's not talking about God at all. When talking about the chakra system, that's not talking about God for the most part. So subtle energy in the way it moves or doesn't move is a science, right? So I actually found it not very spiritual. And you know what's crazy is when I lived in Taiwan, the number one religion was Buddhism, and the number two religion was Christianity. So I don't consider them a beacon of spirituality. I never did. And after living there for 10 years, I absolutely do not. I do consider them a beacon of knowing to go within and work within our own minds, and knowing that the work is within us rather than being so externally focused like we tend to be in the West.
Yes. Also, Indonesia is known for its healers and, energy practitioners. Have you visited there as well?
Check this out. What a great question. We didn't set this up, you guys. I talk about this in one of my books. I don't remember which one, but did you ever see Eat, Pray, Love, the movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You know that Balinese healer she goes to, the traditional healer?
Yes.
I was there before she was with that very same healer, and I had chopped up garlic and other herbs all over my legs. I was in a sarong. That was Ubud. Ubud is the spiritual capital of where a lot of the Western healers go on retreat in Indonesia. Yeah, it was great. I was in Bali right after their earthquake, and they were still recovering, but Ubud's fascinating. You know why? Because you're in Southeast Asia. And you expect to see Buddhist stuff, but there was Hindu stuff because so many Indians had come to live there. Mm-hmm. So there was a really wild blend of Buddhism and Hinduism in some of the temple's architecture.
Interesting. In the introduction, I mentioned that you are working with the human potential field. How would you define that?
A little bit of history to answer it.
Yes.
Okay, so I went into my bachelor's in college as a psych major. My mom we were close, my mom and I, she's passed now, but she said, "You're really good with people, Alison. You should consider psychology," like when I was 13-ish. So I thought about it, felt it out, and it felt right, went in. And the third semester, I was horrified, frankly, Claudio and audience, listeners, hello out there, because it was like they were just answering, how do I use the understanding of people's psychology to gain capitalistically? So there was like the industrial management application, the HR application, right? And then they were focusing on the hardwiring to prove themselves as a science because they were still young then. They weren't answering the question I was sitting there with, which was, how do we be the happiest, most thriving versions of ourselves? Yeah. So I didn't even know about the human potential movement at that time, but I was already asking that question. So from there on in, I kept looking to holistic modalities. And when I lived in San Francisco, I moved there for my master's. There were books in all the used bookstores about the human potential movement. It was really big in California in the 70s and 80s, I guess. So I was there in the early 90s. And so I think too, as a teacher, like you have to see the potential in your students. Like I find that it's less effective to motivate and teach and inspire others if you think they suck, or you think that they're stupid, or you think that they can't understand something, I mean, it's just not. So I naturally see people's potential. And I remember, like, I take students, my most recent book, I talk about the retreats I take students on. They get trained in vibrational upgrade system. And in that book, I'm talking about how it feels like the application of energy healing, which I don't tend to call myself, it's energy medicine professional, has been used in the West, historically thought of as solve a problem. Our psychology list of diagnoses is the biggest book in the medical system. My first book's title is What If There's Nothing Wrong on Purpose? I feel like we're very problem-based in the West. And even my marketing, it's interesting to reach people who are looking to live up to their potential and want to take action. Many people wait until they have a problem that's so big, and then they go for the help, because everybody's so busy living on the surface of life because of being so busy, that looking in the self-reflection where you can get the information and tend to it before it becomes a problem isn't a practice a lot of people have the time or space, or make the time and space to do. So there's so many different aspects to me that are about human potential. I don't have an easy time seeing where someone's, how do I say this? I have a really easy time intuiting someone's blocks and clearing them. But like when I'm on retreat with my students, I'll never forget this. There was one group, and I had been around, they've been my students and with me, intimately working with me for at least a year and a half. And I didn't see their personality level selves, like other family members or colleagues would judge them as and point and say, she's like this, he's like that. I see them as humans. It's not like I'm blind, but I don't tend to focus on that part of a person, the one that's like that, cultivated by culture and family. So I remember all of a sudden getting a viewpoint of, oh, that's how people see her. People judge her for that. Like I started to all of a sudden see the personality level self. And this is after working with them intimately for at least a year and a half. So I naturally have eyes that see the potential.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the psychology comment, do you think that psychology, like any other or many other fields, is not looking at this field from a holistic perspective? It's just very narrow, as you mentioned, HR and capitalism type of viewpoint?
So it's interesting. I'm a personal trainer too, and in my renewal for my certification, the last renewal I did a course for behavioral change specialist. And in that, I learned psychology has just, I think it was the late 90s, early thousands, started a field in it called positive psychology, which is more along the lines of what I'm talking about, but it's still not holistic. It only goes into the mind and some emotions. And so in cognitive behavioral psychology in the West, they have a matching or similar practice as Tibetan Buddhism, where there's a sense of talking back to the mind, to the thoughts you can hear. But realistically, Claudio and listeners, the thoughts that we don't hear, I call it the back of the house consciousness. Over 85% of our daily choices that we make our lives from are from the thoughts we don't hear. So we're only creating our lives 10 to 15% at most from thoughts we can hear. So I find that really important to repeat, because people think that they are like, if you're not working with somebody to see your shadow, to get to your back of the house consciousness, then you're not going to be aware of why you say you want A, but you keep taking actions not for A, but for B. So I don't feel like psychology is, no, not yet holistic enough.
Yeah.
Or even holistic.
Yeah, like medicine, which is not holistic at all. But I won't go there now.
No, let's not. But even Claudio, like some of the more mainstream, I hate to use that word, that's why I'm hesitating. The way that they'll term this work is mindset. You know, so people can be more comfortable, and who may not understand, or like, I know some people think meditation's about religion, and it absolutely isn't. Everybody has a mind.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, mindset is, I think, another way to approach, well, your mindset of the thoughts you do hear is the way it is from the thoughts you don't hear. And that's where we want to get to, and clear them, to bring them more to the prefrontal lobe, so that you start to hear more of your thoughts, and then that releases more of your potential. And then if you get the clearing with an activation, which is how I do all of my work, then we can start to carve out new neurological pathways that make it easier for you to repeat the positive, and then make choices that will help create that new positive track. So we can't change unless we address that back of the house consciousness, because you could hear your thoughts, you could be in meditation, you could observe them, you could learn to detach from them, but you still have all of this pull, this magnetism, this energetic pull back here that you have to address in order to get change, and quicker and easier.
Interesting. Yes. Dr. Alison, you develop an energy medicine called vibrational upgrade energy medicine. How does it work, and how is it different from, other energy-based processes?
Well, I just started, it's funny you're asking that now, because I just started to, I just started to explain it. So I have background in 5 different modalities of energy medicine. Qigong is the 6th, which is also used as an energy medicine. And then my other background is the yoga and meditation teaching. And I've been teaching meditation for, I think, almost 30 years at this point, all over the world, all different ages, all different cultures. So vibration upgrade system is the recognition that when I meditate, I'm hearing and observing only about 10 to 15% of the thoughts I have. So I can discipline and pull off of the thoughts and come back to my breath and create detachment. And in minutes 20 to minute 30, I can start to flush some of my subconscious. But I can get there a whole lot quicker if I get the gains that you get out of meditation coupled with energy medicine. So if I go in with my hawk eyes, natural intuitive abilities that I've cultivated throughout the decades, if I go in and I can identify your back of the house block, like I'm not good enough, for example. So you may have an offer come in. If you have that back of the house thought that you don't even know you have, you may have, if you own your own business, you may have an offer come in that's really great, and you may procrastinate, or you may not respond to the email, or you may just, bottom line, sabotage moving in that new, easier, more profitable, more helpful for you and others direction, because this is pulling you towards, no, I can't have that. That's not for me. I'm not worthy of things like that kind of ease, that kind of success, that kind of profit. So I identify that, I clear the blockage out, and then I activate the positive. And then continuing on, I then coach the person out of that old mindset and the activation clears the way for a new neurological pathway to be created. And then I continue to coach them so they can have what I call applied mindfulness, not just mindfulness, but apply it to engage in a new behavior that's going to lead to better outcomes that are better for yourself, your life, and your heart will sing more. So it's a way of changing, but it's much quicker than meditation, and it actually gets the change to happen.
In other words, a one-to-one, one-on-one process. You have to work directly with the client in order to...
No. I do most of my work nowadays through groups. I don't even do one-on-ones. And it's interesting too, because I even had a little bit of this bias. You think that you move slower in groups, right? Mm-hmm. Like you need a one-on-one for faster movement, right?
Yes.
I mean, do you think that? I don't mean to be...
No, leading. I mean, I just, usually this is the belief, yes, that it's faster to be one-on-one, yes.
But I found that with the modules I created, the videos that they watch each week in my signature program, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, with what they have access to, that I do not live with them, so that when I do come on live with them on calls, they've moved so much faster. Mm-hmm. So, and I can get to all areas of their life. Whereas with a one-on-one client, it's usually more of a focus on one or two specific targets or goals. Whereas I can do all of it in the group program. And I have, because I think partially the classroom teaching, somebody just said this to me last night, one of my clients, I can take what one person is talking about and turn it into a clearing and activation for the entire group that helps everybody, no matter where they're at. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And what is the minimum and the maximum you bring in your groups in terms of people?
I tend to max Magic Manifestation and Money Flow out at most 20, usually 15.
Yeah, that's a good number.
Yeah, so I'm used to like the classroom management, and I naturally give personal attention, and I don't let people get lost in the group, because it's a great part of what's important now. It's not just using your voice, but that chakra is about choice, the throat chakra I'm talking about, and everybody thinks it has to do with communication. In my second book, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, I was having a breakthrough at the time with all of the one-on-ones I was doing. I wasn't yet in the group programs. I had one smaller group program. All of my clients started to show me that there was this new wiring that wanted to happen, a connection from their heart chakra to their throat. And I asked my guidance in meditation one day, what is that? And I got that it's called, I got to call it the Co-Creators Channel. So this is around 2016. And so like the second wave of people awakening was happening. And from 2012 to 2032, we have the 20-year window of what's considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. The first 10 years were more about clearing. This year is the halfway point, and now it's more about creating. The throat chakra is key to creating, because courage sits here, choices sit here. So if somebody has a chronically tight neck, a lot of the times you'll see that person also feels like they don't have much choice. So like a mother in a corporate job having kids that she gets the insurance for, husband doesn't get insurance, she has to stay in that job. She has no choice. So her thoughts tell her, in order to have the kids covered with health insurance. So chronically tight neck is a sign of a closed down throat chakra. But in order to create the new, we have to access the new. It sounds really stupid, but it's so obvious. And in order to access the new, we have to use tools beyond our thinking mind. So courage is needed. Choice is a musculature, and developing your ability to not take choices so seriously. I don't want to make the wrong choice, but to just practice making a choice, observing the outcome. Do I like that? Is that making my heart sing and my life thrive? Yes, make more choices like that. No, make less choices like that. So exercising choice as our creative power in these new times is key.
Interesting. And because you just made a correlation between a disease and the throat chakra, I will ask if I may for another example or another type of association. Let's say someone has inflammation in her wrists, fingers, even ankles. There is a lot of pain. Walking is hard. What you will associate that with? Which chakras will associate that type of pain?
Okay, so let me just help you, because that's such a great question. On my website, if you go to the chakra series page, Every chakra has a listing of the most typical, not all, because there's a lot, blocks at the physical level, at the mental level, at the emotional level, and at the spiritual level. So you can go through and self-assess yourself, and then there's sample clearings and activations right underneath it. So the root chakra governs from the tailbone down to the tips of the toes. If a chakra is the intersection, which it is, of mind, body, and spirit, that means we can, if we're working through subtle energies, the mental or the emotional or the spiritual, that's easiest. Once something becomes physicalized, that takes longer to clear with subtle energy, right? So we want to catch stuff at the level of the more subtle consciousness. So inflammation's irritation, wrists are connected. So the heart chakra governs the arms and wrists and hands. So I would have the person look at their root and at their heart.
Okay, thank you. And because we are on the chakra subject, I've heard a lot of stories about instant and unexpected chakra awakening, and these people had no intention or done any proper work to awaken their chakras. Yep. How important is this? Is the spiritual advancement to awaken the chakras?
I'm going to answer this in a bigger way, okay, to help the listeners and yourself if you don't already know this. 2011, I was back in the States for a little over a year, and I was dealing with the worst culture shock yet, coming back to my home country after a decade. And I got asked by Voice America to have a show to have a weekly radio show about the Mayan galactic alignment on December 21st, 2012. I wasn't doing anything with the Mayan galactic alignment, December 21st, 2012, anywhere in my business, except I was taking people. I live on the west coast of Florida, so I just hop across the Gulf of Mexico, and the Yucatan's right there with Chichen Itza and a lot of the other main ruins. It's great, yeah. So I had been taking clients on private VIP trips there, but that wasn't public facing. It was only word of mouth. Nonetheless, I said, okay, give me 48 hours. I'll think about it. It was a total yes. I did it. Week after week, I interviewed specialists about December 21st, 2012. And what I came to understand was the Mayans considered it the end of one era every 26,000 years and the beginning of a new one. In yoga, Yogi Bhajan talked about the end of one yuga and the beginning of a new yuga, Kali Yuga. So yuga means era. Professional astrologers talk about the end of Aquarian age into the Piscean, the other way around, the end of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. Yeah, I'm doing the left-to-right rewiring here. I do that a lot since I lived in Taiwan and talked Chinese. So in all the energy medicine, I have a lot of whole brain consciousness. It's kind of interesting. So the point is that I wrote 2 books on this topic. The Nature of Our Times is called The Spiritual Awakening, 2012 to 2032. The first 10 years, as I said, were about clearing. This next 10 years is about creating the new era. So in 2019, I went to Teotihuacan, a beautiful ancient ruin site outside of Mexico City. And we hired a native guide. And I said, okay, so we've moved beyond 2012. We're at 2019 now. What do you think the old era was about? In the new one, what do you think it's about? And so this guy said the old one was about destruction and the new era is about construction. So I say all of this because everybody's awakening now. It's unavoidable. Some of the reactions I heard starting around 2013-ish was tinnitus, skin issues, skin reactions, skin sensitivities. All of that is your subtle energy or your life force awakening more. More and more people were coming to me starting around then to more 2014, where they're like, I feel everybody in my office and I can't handle negative energy. That was a strong one for a long time because everything is awakening. So what you're talking about is it's a outcome of the times we're living in. So now the gig is to learn how to manage it and thrive with this awakening. Spontaneous awakening will not necessarily at all be about a Kundalini rising. It's misused a lot. People talk about Kundalini rising when they have like an aha or an awakening. Kundalini rising is something you have to work towards, and it doesn't happen spontaneously. Even if you take ayahuasca, you're not going to get a Kundalini rising. That's something profound that happens after you've been doing the spiritual progressively for a while. So there's nothing to be frightened of. There's a really important, I want to just stress too, if you are focused on your spiritual growth, please do it with a teacher. Yes. Please don't just piece together a bunch of YouTube videos and think you got it handled. This is not the domain to do that with, even though, spirituality has become a commodity now in the marketplace because of this awakening time.
Yes, and you just mentioned ayahuasca. What is your relationship with plant medicine?
Yeah.
If you have any, of course.
I've not done ayahuasca. When I came back from Asia, I was seeing the trend, and it had started more. It actually kicked in more like 2014-ish. I think ayahuasca is relied on too much. I think people put too much on it. Like when I was in Glastonbury, UK in the last year, I've noticed, because that's where I lead my retreats from, that they're doing these cacao ceremonies there now. I've been in cacao ceremonies in Mexico. There's nothing special about it. It's cacao. I take it every day in my smoothie, but I mean, there's a cool drumming ceremony and a sacredness to the way that they'll present the cacao when they do the sacred ceremony, but there's nothing mystical about it. And so the ayahuasca can take you on a trip. So can LSD, so can mushrooms. I don't need drugs anymore. And I never really did need drugs. This awakening, it's a way of life. It's not like a one-shot deal. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting using ayahuasca to open and awaken, because then you think you need that to do it, and you don't. And it's the same with every other drug.
Or at least you might need it for, short little while here and there as a stimulant, and see exactly what your blockages are. But again, it's not something you have to do it on a permanent basis. At least this is how I see it.
Claudiu, I don't think that ayahuasca or mushrooms or acid helps, or any of the plant medicine helps people see their blocks. I think it helps shift consciousness so you can have more awareness, but I don't think it can get to a block and shift it. Mm-hmm. I think it's an aspect of only, and this is my work, right? Consciousness runs throughout the body, but how does consciousness affect your subtle energy? And then these two intertwined is what I've developed. So yeah, you can gain awareness and increase your consciousness, expand your consciousness, not increase it, from the drug use for a bit of time. And then you need other tools to continue to work with it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And you also mentioned about the changes we are going through these days, and they are all energetically, socially, politically even. And totally. Even Earth is going through major energetic transformation. How do you see the Earth energetic changes? What's your perception of that?
Where are you based? Where are you talking
Canada,
about?
Toronto.
You're in Toronto. I just had a client from Toronto right before this. The Richmond Hill area?
North of Richmond Hill, yes. I lived in Richmond Hill for 20 years, yes.
So meanwhile, you have the beach behind you, and I do too, literally here. So
because we spent 4 months in Panama last year, that's why.
In Panama?
Yes.
Well done, you. Okay, so ask me the question again. I'm getting distracted. I'm sorry.
We are going through a lot of changes, and Earth is also going through a lot of energetic changes. How do you perceive these changes?
So I didn't open with this, but my first career was in protecting the Earth. My master's is in public administration and environmental policy. And when I got out with that, I looked at where am I going to affect more change, in the system or outside the system? And you know that feeling when no doors open, and you kind of read it as, okay, what you reevaluate when no doors are opening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't getting a job with grace and ease, and I reevaluated, and I heard intuitively, if you want to affect change, do it one consciousness at a time. So I went back on my bachelor's, and that's what I went into the classroom teaching with, in English lit background for my bachelor's. But everything I'm doing is about helping consciousness, whether it's the Earth's or it's ours. And the lighter we are, the lighter the Earth is. I don't mean just raising awareness about the need to recycle or have alternate fuel sources. I don't mean just that. I mean, literally, like from the ancients' viewpoint, our consciousness is affecting the Earth's. That's why it's not just global warming. When she gets, I'm calling she Gaia, the Earth, when it gets pissed off and it can't handle what it's handling, she has a great way to take care of herself.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So she's clearing, and she has been, and it's not just global warming. I've been saying this all the way through since 2011 with the radio show and after the radio show, that we're seeing the Earth clear herself. She has to get rid of the toxins and the negativity. I know a lot of people, and I was even taught this doing ceremony, like let the Earth take the negative energy. I don't even do that anymore. I'm doing stuff every day to help the Earth. In fact, one of the levels that people get trained with me in vibration upgrade system is Dragon Master. And when they're at that level, I take them to sacred sites and help show them how to clear the Earth. So the Earth is going through clearing. She's continuing to go through clearing, and it's not just global warming. And us working on our consciousnesses and clearing us and getting lighter will help the Earth do the same.
Yes, and let's not forget that we are approaching the 12,000 year grand solar minimum, which contributes to all the phenomena that is happening right now around the Earth. So certain scientists are aware of it, certain people are aware of it, I think the governments are aware of it, but most of us are still in darkness because they don't want to share this information. So we'll leave it there for now, but this is what's coming, either we want it or not, and I don't think we can prevent it anyway. It's just coming.
You know, it's interesting. My client who's in Toronto is a global warming scientist. And he's been working with me since like 2012, I think. I think it can be prevented. I hear you, I understand. And I understand the science, it's not just the policy side of it. My sense is we're still riding the edge, but it's still salvageable.
Yeah, I mean, we can stop pollution, that's for sure. We can stop destroying ecosystems, that's for sure.
We can develop the technologies that clean it too. Like in Japan, they have one that's clean, you know? So new technologies can also be created to take that out, to remove it. Like they're doing a hell of a lot of seagrass planting in the UK, because that does even better of a job than forests with removing the CO2 from the air and putting in the oxygen, you know? So yeah, I think we can get it.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I've discussed this subject with many of my guests. There are technologies that are based on free energy, like free energy technologies all over the world, but there is no desire to bring this forward. That means, yes, we don't even need electrical cars at that point, because we can use these free energy technologies. So no oil, no gas, it's totally different, and it's free, but that's the problem, it's free. You know?
So that's the new paradigm, Claudio. That's the new paradigm of where it's nicknamed a new golden era. So it's one of the things that's also happening. I mean, you've seen in the last couple of years how many countries where people don't typically protest are in the streets marching, protesting. So part of what's clearing is where there's been abuses of power and where the voices haven't been heard, and where where truth needs to rise to the surface. So the lot more is coming out. Black Lives Matter, Me Too movement, just two examples. But like in Chile, people are marching in the streets, and in Moscow, people are marching in the streets. Just for quick examples, those are two countries that don't usually have people protesting. The voices of the people is rising, and I don't think that if we have a threshold, I think the voices of the people will overtake the economic concerns. I know that sounds idealistic, but we are moving into times that do honor the ideals instead of the money and the profit. Will we do it soon enough? COVID lasted a lot longer than I expected it to. I don't know. Humanity's lazy, mate.
Yes, for sure. Dr. Alison, I would like to get into your books with the containing interesting words, the dragon or the dragons. And I'm asking you that because one of my friends, the founder of Nomad University, is fascinated with dragons, and he sees dragons everywhere. So I would like to get into your books.
All right. So I started with the dragon books, my third and fourth book. The third book, Reasonable Dragons. it's available also on Audible, and that's the quickest digestion. I go into depth in the other 3 books a lot more. The 4th book, The Dragon Master Creatrix, Conversations with a Female Spiritual Teacher for These New Times, that's not available on Audible. That one is, all of these are on Amazon. You have to use Alison with 1 L, J middle initial, and then KAY, because there's an Alison K there publishing other topics. The dragons for me started to come up around I've always had a connection with dragons. I noticed them in Asia on top when they would sculpt them on top of the roofs. I got aware of feng shui in Asia. And then I started in 2015 back here now to have this feeling around me of the old tools are not enough to clear the amount of clearing that the earth needs and that humanity needs right now. I need new tools. And where I got led to in part were dragons. So what I came to understand, this is going to sound out there for some people, warning, out there warning. Dragons can dive deep into density that archangels cannot. So archangels can't lower their vibration enough to dive into the density, whereas dragons do that. And from my understanding, humanity has been so interested in dragons for a while, even before Game of Thrones and before all the dragon movies, because in the subtle realms, dragons have come back to help us. And those of us who are high enough and awake enough, clear enough, pure enough of a vibration can access them and then have them as companions helping us help others. I don't mean helping us help ourselves only. I mean, if we're committed to being in service. So the dragons do a great job going along the ley lines in particular. So in Asia, the original ley lines, meaning a line that in the English understanding, a ley line is where there are 2 or more sacred sites dedicated to the same individual. So like the Michael ley line crosses Avebury Stone Circle, goes down to Cornwall in the UK, to St. Michael's Mount in the UK on Land's End. Then that connects to Mont Saint Michel in France. It goes all the way over to Jerusalem. So that's a Michael ley line. There's ley lines all across the planet, just like the meridians in our body. So the ley lines, however, in Asia are called dragon lines in the traditional Chinese culture. So I reconnected with, okay, so when they had their slanted roofs over there, it's so that the line, the dragon, the energy, it's telluric current, that's the name of it in the earth, whereas it's chi in us. So the telluric current could travel without hindrance. In Ireland, they call them fairy lines, in fairy paths. In Australia, the Aboriginals call them song lines. So there's this concept throughout many different cultures. So the dragons are helpers. They can dive into density. They help. I teach people how to work with them to help clear the collective. They're able to deal with a lot of density. And so I also use them to help clear the earth. There's different dragons for different purposes.
So, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. I just want to finish up because this feels important. They had been around when humanity was less ego-driven and more pure, and then they've disappeared for tens of thousands of years, and now they're coming back because we're moving into the new golden age. So,
and how often do you use dragons in your sessions?
I use dragons every day, all throughout the day.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome. Isn't there one right behind me?
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful.
Here's the book, by the way. This is the 3rd book, Reasonable Dragons. I like the subtitle, where how to activate the field of possibilities where logical magic is the new normal. But then here's a dragon's egg. So if you hold it in your hand or you get heat on it or you use a lighter, that area glows.
And is that a crystal, I assume?
No.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that cool?
What are your plans for 2023?
That. A lot more of that. And really playing with people who are ready to really live at a higher level of thriving and possibilities. I've been saying since about 2016, if you're addicted to the struggle paradigm, I'm not the right mentor for you. And I am seeing such, like, I live on the cutting edge and I teach my highest level students how to do this with possibilities. So I'm invoking and asking for stuff that I've not yet seen shown possible. But if I'm set up, if you think of my signature program, Magic, Manifestation, and Money Flow, I say that because once you're in the flow, meaning aligned, this is cleared, you're able to manifest as if by magic. So I'm like a pretty strong manifestor. My nickname is Beast of Manifestation, or one of my nicknames. So when we're a higher vibration, we can move energy more easily, meaning we manifest more easily, right? So I am really, on a daily basis, I'm looking up because I'm constantly invoking what else is possible. What can we create now? So just more play and more fun like that, and more people on and ready to play at this level. More travel. I think new retreats will be, I'm not sure, but I'm getting the call that, like, the only retreats I lead for my students who are training to be vibrational practitioners are up leveling. But at some point, maybe in 2023, I might open that up to more people. There's some. How about you?
We don't know yet. Depends on how traffic will be open to everyone. If there will be any restrictions in place, we are trying to, we're manifesting that there are no restrictions, and we are going to make some plans at the beginning of the year. But we are waiting to see how things will unfold.
You guys aren't restricted from travel.
We were for a long time.
But you're not now.
Not now.
Yeah, I got jabbed just so I could travel, to tell you the truth. And so I could go and start leading the retreats again. I had to get out of the States at that point. So as soon as the UK opened for vaccinated people, I'm like, I got jabbed so I could go and just talk to my body to accept it. So if you're not jabbed, I understand you've had to wait longer.
Yes. Indeed.
Yeah. And it's, my family just got together for Thanksgiving, right? 16 of us, and half the people ended up with COVID again. Some of them for the first time.
You are one of the lucky ones who can understand her own body, talk to the body, talk to maybe other entities to clear the body of that, what I call it, poison. So, yes.
Take it only that which is of benefit.
Yeah.
And trusting that my body knows how to use it. Like, instead of living in the fear of, oh my God, what does that contain? It's like, health. That's the premise of my second energy medicine modality. I got taught to do this communication in a special way. And I'm sorry that I'm saying in a special way without any explanation, but it's just too long to teach. And the core of it is reminding whatever body part is hurting or suffering, that it knows health. I helped wipe a brain tumor out of somebody's brain with that technique. I've helped people with cancerous tumors. Wow, look at that slip. I've helped people with cancerous tumors, have them contained so they could just go and get them cut out. And then when they're done after surgery, not need any morphine, surprising the doctors and nurses and going home much sooner instead of it spreading. So the body has its own wisdom, and we've been on, like, this is part of these cleansing times, Claudiu and everybody listening, this anxiousness that seems like it's in the oxygen that we breathe.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Alison, we are towards the end of our interview. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. If you could just even start with, like, there's this with when you think a thought that is full of doubt, some kind of way, redirect yourself. Hey, what if there's nothing wrong here? Talk back to get some separation from who you genuinely are in your conditioned thinking mind. That's the whole nature of the 5,000 years of wisdom for meditation. because there is a lot of that anxiety floating in the air and it's contagious.
Yes.
So you want to, like, you teach a dog to stay trained on the lead, you want to rein it on in. Now is not the time to let your monkey mind go wild.
Okay. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you for joining me today. It's been a wonderful chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Claudio.
Thank you. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Like it, share it. Get a free copy of my book when you visit my website. And until next time, love and gratitude.